Good evening, students. So this video is from the paper Translation Studies, Unit 2, History of Translation, and in that unit the topic is going to be the 18th century. Okay, so what do you mean by this history of translation? In each age, what do the translators say? What do the translator theorists say? Okay, so who are all the translator scholars who say about translation? Okay, so that's what we are studying. So in the 18th century, who are all the translators and who are all the translator theorists, and what do they say so? Okay, so that's what we are going to study. And Dryden and Pope both say the translator's job is to satisfy the contemporary reader. John Dryden and Alexander Pope, they say that the main aim or the job of the translator is to satisfy the contemporary reader. Okay, so see, there is a work, say for example Rabindranath Tagore's Gitanjali. Okay, of course Gitanjali was translated by the original author himself. Okay, so Rabindranath Tagore himself translated the Bengali version by Gitanjali, and first initially he wrote it in Bengali language, and then Rabindranath Tagore himself translated in English. Okay, and therefore we cannot let me not take that one as example. We shall take national anthem. Okay, see why I am not taking that example is since the original author himself is translated, then it is Tagore's Gitanjali should be included as Indian writing English. Okay, it's rather than considering it as a translated work, we have to consider it as Indian writing English. Okay, and so okay, therefore let me not take that one as the example, but we shall take Rabindranath Tagore's our national anthem. Okay, so national anthem. All of us, all the Indians are singing the Bengali version of national anthem. It is not translated in regional languages, and then Indians are not singing. So myself or any other Indians, most of the Indians do not know Bengali language, yet they have to by heart the Bengali national anthem, which was written by Rabindranath Tagore. Okay, and it is translated into the Tamil language as well as in English language. And see, say for example, I want to translate national anthem into Tamil language. Okay, for example, and when I translate national anthem into Tamil language, my target audience, my target readers are going to be my contemporary people. Okay, my aim is should not be that in future also my translation is going to be read. Likewise, I should not think after 50 years another translator will come and he will translate national anthem into the Tamil language. Okay, so for after 50 years my translation is not going to be read. Okay, so therefore my aim is that when I translate national anthem into Tamil language, my target readers are going to be my contemporary. At least for 50 years the translation will survive, and after 50 years my translation is not going to survive. Another translator will come and translate it. Okay, so this is the condition of a translator. But Rabindranath Tagore's national anthem or Gitanjali, everything is that text will survive for 1000 years or 2000 years. It is going to be a classical text, but my translation version will survive only for 50 years. Okay, so I should not think that my translation will be read for 100 years, 2000 years, my translation will be read. I should not think and that in this way and then write my translation. My translation will be read to a maximum extent of 50 years. Okay, and then after 50 years, another translator will come and he will translate. Okay, so therefore, my contemporary readers is my target to make the to give them feel and make them understand. I should translate, not for the future people. Okay, so this is the point said by Dryden and Pope. They also discuss the problem of over-faithfulness and lostness. In future, a new translator will come, and therefore contemporary readers are important. And they also talked about over-faithfulness and lostness. So, over-faithfulness, if we translate over-faithfully, then we may deviate from the meaning or the feel. Okay, or if we completely add our own creativity, then there could be some loss. Okay, so these things the translator should keep, but ultimately the translator should keep in the mind about the contemporary readers. Okay, that's what Dryden and Pope say. And then Dr. Johnson say that there could be addition of elements or elegance. Okay, there is nothing wrong in adding elegance to the original text when we translate it, but there should not be any deletion. Okay, so certain beauty, certain figure of speech, certain interesting passages and comparison, we can add more to the ESL. Okay, say there are 10 figures of speech, beautiful figures of speech in the ESL, and he should translate not exactly the same figure of speech, but he should give the same feel, and at the same time he can add one more figure of speech or one more line to add beauty to the translation. Okay, but there should not be any deletion. He cannot delete the number of figures of speech or words. Okay, words or lines. So this is what Johnson, Dr. Johnson say. And then Pope compares his version of translation and Chapman's version of translation, and he say both are good in their own time. There are, of course, there are differences in the feel. See, Alexander Pope translated Homer's works, and then Chapman maybe approximately before 100 years when Alexander Pope translated Homer, before Alexander Pope himself, Homer was translated into English by Chapman. Okay, and for that, though there is a translated version of Homer, Alexander Pope also translated Homer. Okay, and he says that both my translation as well as Chapman's translation are equally good. Okay, but what is the problem? I write for my contemporary people. Chapman translated 100 years ago for his people, for his contemporary people. But I translate for my contemporary people. And Chapman's ancient translation cannot be read today. Okay, that's why Alexander Pope translated Homer into English after maybe approximately after a long time. Okay, and he acknowledges that there are differences in feel, yet both translations are good. And the concept of translator as a painter or imitator continued, but underwent several changes. And in this century also, translator is like a painter. The same comparison is followed here, but that underwent several changes. They made several changes in this comparison. And what kind of changes? What do some scholars say that we shall discuss now? Goethe says there are three phases of translation. So he says that God says there are three stages of translation. First one, he makes familiar with the foreign language and literature with our own terms and understanding. Okay, he says first the translator should understand for the SL language, grammar, literature, and he should make a kind of comparison of the SL and PTE. So this is the first stage. And the second stage, the translator observes sense of foreign work, substitutes and reproduces in his own creative terms. And now and then, what does he say? What is the second stage? A framework of the translation should be done, maybe in the written form or in his mind. So a kind of proper translation is done in the second stage, and in the third stage, the translator aims for perfect identity between SL and TL. So the minute details, the number of words, the number of figures of speech, the number of lines, so all the minute details are taken into consideration, and then he translates perfectly. Okay, so that is the third stage of translation, which all the translators should do. Is what Goethe says, and Goethe says that who translated Homer into German. Okay, the translator did perfectly Homer's translation into German language. Okay, and what do Alexander Tytler say? Okay, what does he say about translation? So Tytler talked about three basic principles in translation, and the translator should give a complete transcript of the idea of the original work. So the translator should have a thorough knowledge of the SL original text. He should be well versed with the ISL text. And second one, the style and manner of writing should be of the same character with that of original. Even the style and manner and characters should be the same with the original. So this is the second principle of translation. And then the translator should have all ease of the original composition. And the translator should easily translate it. And to what extent the translator can easily translate is that the original author easily writes original text. Likewise, the translator also should easily translate it. Okay, so to that extent, he should have the talent and skill. This is what Tytler says. And Tytler is also against Dryden's view of paraphrase. Dryden says that paraphrase, that is sense translation, is the best kind of translation, but Tytler is against it. But overall, everyone acknowledges that all of us should go for sense translation. Okay, that's what everyone says. But here in the 18th century, Tytler says that we should not have sense translation, Dryden's paraphrase. Because what is the reason is that there could be possibility of loss in the translation. Some fields, some ideas, if you go for sense translation, there could be some loss in it. That's why he did not support sense translation or paraphrase. Of course, the translator has the liberty, if there is some obscure passages, you can take liberty and translate, go for sense translation. That's what Tytler says. He says the translator is like an imitator of paintings with changing the colors, but he should not change the force of the painting. And Tytler also gives the same comparison that translator is like a painter, and he should paint it exactly, but he can change the color of the painting. But he should not change the spirit of the painting, main feel and spirit of the painting. He should not change, but rather he can change the color. Okay, that's what Tytler say. Likewise, the translator should do. Okay, some changes he can make, but the main spirit he should not change. So finally, in this century, translation is more of painting with the keeping the spirit of the original. So overall, most of the translation theorists in 18th century, they say that translation is more of they give the same comparison that translation is like a painting, but the spirit of the painting should not be changed. To that extent, the translator can change anything when he translates. Okay, thank you.